Hi, good afternoon, and we have our next set of speakers. I know some of the people are really having a little relaxed lunch, so we have told them that we are going to close the lunch so they can come back on time. So we have our next two speakers, Madhivanan and Lynette Lee, both having extensive experience in banking and finance industry. So it comes as no surprise that they have chosen the topic related to their space, which is how sustainable is supply chain finance evolving, right? So that's what they're going to be talking about and sharing their knowledge. So welcome to both of you, and we would love you to start the session. Thank you. Yeah. You're not using, you're only going to. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Madhi. Thanks.
So we are not going to present any slides.
Somebody wants to pick your water, coffee, please do that.
All right.
No slides.
No slides.
I think you guys had a heavy morning. Unless you like slides, I'm happy to share at any one point. Yeah. Maybe I'll start with introducing Madhi first because he's amazing. He's well known in the supply chain.
All right. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. So I'm Madhi. Have been into technology and digital transformation for more than 2 decades, especially in the financial services. So I've been with DBS Bank for about 15, 16 years, and then with SEB for 3 years, and with Task Connect right from the beginning. We offer a SaaS platform to digitalize the supply chain finance. So today we are going to talk about, not about the platform that we offer, but what are the challenges and what are the opportunities and so on and so forth. So looking forward to have an interesting chat in the next 20, 25 minutes. Over to you, Lynette.
Thank you. I'm Lynette here. Likewise, we came from the same mothership, Standard Chartered Banks, from Standard Chartered Ventures, which is the venture arm. I'm a venture lead. I'm leading a sustainability venture which should go live by the end of this year. How we came about, we focus on doing sustainable due diligence for companies of all sizes because we want to encourage the whole ecosystem to embark on the sustainability journey. Many problems was highlighted earlier by Dr. Nilandra. So happy to share more as we first start to learn a bit more about sustainability, supply chain, and then we'll debunk some of the ideas in sustainability and see how these two come together in the session today. So for now, I'd like Madhi to share a little bit more about supply chain. So I'd like you to share with all of us here about the importance of supply chain and how Task Connect plays a huge part in this $27 billion supply chain software business, which is growing at a CAGR rate of 10%, actually it's 10.9% per annum, and how the banks and the supply chain are supporting this ecosystem.
Sure. I think to explain a bit more, I will just quote one of our clients on our platform as a reference, so it's easier for all of us to understand. So Lenovo is one of the client in our platform, right? So they are ranked as 8th or 9th largest physical supply chain organization in the world by Gartner survey, okay? So as such, their physical supply chain is quite complex and cross-border, cross-country, and so on and so forth. And they have both the buy side as well as the sell side. They buy materials from their suppliers, and then they have their finishing product, which they sell it to their distributors, buyers, and so on and so forth across different countries, right? So as the physical supply chain is complex, the payables and the receivables to the counterparties is also complex, right? And given their size, they work with multiple financing institutions to get the credit line, to cater for the early working capital that the counterparties may require. So without a platform, a technology platform, it is, the process is very onerous, very manual, very inefficient, okay? And every bank has their own portal where, the treasurer need to log in and provide the data in the bank's format and so on and so forth, okay? So with that, there is no full visibility or control of how much supply chain finance need to be catered for which suppliers or which counterparties are in need of finance, and so on and so forth, right? So because of that, the treasurer are pushed to just take care of 20% of their counterparties for the early working capitals, because that's the maximum that they can do manually, right? So with the platform, with the latest technology that available, so Task Connect is one of them, and what we do is, connect to the ERP to get the data flow in automatically, and then give the full visibility, integrate with multiple banks so that, full visibility, full control is given to the treasurer, and it helps to scale to cover their 100% of counterparties as required, okay? And it is all based on the data available. It's no hypothesis or anything of that sort. And with the AI, ML, we can help them automate the decisioning as which supplier to get what type of finance, how much, and so on and so forth. And in fact, Lynette and us are working together to bring in the ESG or green or sustainable finance, which is what we are going to talk about, right? But before that, I think while now you have a picture of what supply chain finance is about, I think we should also hear from Lynette as, what in general about ESG, the due diligence that she mentioned, so that when we talk about how that is influencing to evolve the supply chain finance will be clearer for all of us.
Thanks, Madhi. Actually, I think he was being very humble. Lenovo is not just one of his clients. They were the first that supported his idea. So when they came up with the idea of what they need to do in the supply chain, Lenovo actually backed them and joint invested in it to develop Task Connect, which is what you see today, which is why they're very successful in the space. So our move on a little bit more about sustainability. It seems to be a buzzword for the last 2 years and what's going on. What does sustainability actually means to each individual in the economy, in the marketplace? I think there was a lot of conversations about ESG, circular economy, carbon. There was a lot of focus on carbon. I would like to subdivide this into 3 categories. ESG is one part of it, carbon is the second track, and circular economy is a third track. So if we look at them, what do they actually mean? For me, sustainability is E, S, and G, and I'll further explain why. And they mean environment, social, and governance, because it backs up the backbone of every business. It cuts across all industries, and it is what is required. Carbon. So carbon is a very sexy word recently with exchanges, with everything that's going on. It's important because it's directly impacted to environment. But I would consider carbon, especially the credits portion, is a financial tool. It is a way to bring down the emissions. It is a way to calculate, to track, and measure. It is part of a subset of sustainability. And the third part, circular, which was mentioned earlier. Circular economy is a way of managing based on the 3R principles and how it could lead to impact and dependency and back into supply chain itself. So my focus is very much on E, S, and G. Why so? People have asked me before. Because besides measuring, managing, what else does it mean, actually? So I'll turn around and ask you a question. Will you support and be a consumer and buy loads of products and services from a particular company if they have low carbon footprint but they're using child labor? Does it impact you? What is your considerations when you take that into consideration? It's social. It's hard to quantify social. That's why sustainability software market and green market is a growing economy. It's actually sitting at about 21 billion below supply chain, but it's growing at 20% CAGR because it's a very new market. But firstly, we need to be very clear which stream we are tackling in sustainability. What does it mean overall for you? Are you able to start measuring, managing at this point? Or do you need to actually move to the next stage and accelerate your actions? And do you take a holistic approach and embed it in your DNA of your company? And that's the importance of sustainability at this point. So as we discuss a little bit further in this fireside chat, maybe we could actually raise one example I'd like everyone to think about, and then Madhi can embark it a little bit further on the supply chain. If you run a series of hotels, your suppliers are very important to you. They are selling you maybe seafood from various parts of the world, but you do not know what's their sustainability level at this point. How well are they rating their sustainability? How are their methods in trying to fish from the oceans? How are they packing? How are they treating the people, the fisheries and all? Is it important to you? It is important. So that's when you start using the whole sustainability platform, like what I'm doing, is a whole ESG due diligence to look into what are these guys doing. And you will decide if you want them in the ecosystem. Will you be willing to finance them? Are they worthy to be in your value chain itself? Because if you are a hotel, you're running a chain of companies, you're at risk of infringing on what we call the Supply Chain Act, which is enforced as an act. There's legal penalties, there's a lot of fines on it, it's systemic risk to your reputation. So this is a real case of supply chain sustainability and how important it is. If you are using a supplier that supplies you fish in an unethical manner, or socially they're using child labor or bad labor governance itself, you will not be allowed to run your hotel and the restaurant in certain countries, or you'll be heavily penalized, or that's where it leads to greenwashing, which is why sustainability in supply chain is extremely important. And like when we work with Madhi together, so my venture is called Huma, is how can we actually trace and track to ensure that what you're saying is real, is something that we can evidence, and something we're willing to finance, and the companies and the financiers and the regulators are behind you. Because it's not about what you say, it's what you have said and what you have done to evidence it. Right, Madhi?
In fact, yeah. Maybe, instead of talking about that supply chain, the hotel, I can talk about, supply chain with FMCG, right? A fast-moving consumer good. So we are working with one of the largest client, okay? So their challenge is, okay, the scope 1, they have full controls and they are doing extremely well, right? Scope 3 is where they are facing challenges, okay? So how can the finance be embedded to motivate their counterparties to do better in ESG? So their ESG challenges addressed, at the same time the counterparties get the finance required, right? So we have put up a option in front of them that give lesser, the counterparties who are doing better in the ESG risk rating, which is lower in the ESG risk rating, need not give higher discount for the early working capital. Okay, so there is some motivation for the counterparty to do better in controlling their ESG risk rating, so that they can give less percentage to get early working capital from the buyer. Okay, so this is one option where the buyer has surplus cash. The other option is like what Lynette mentioned earlier. We can put the ESG rating together with the other data points that we have in our platform, and then come up with a credit scoring, equivalent credit scoring, which is inclusive of the ESG rating, and put that in front of the bank to enable them and bring them transparency to them to give green or sustainable finance to the counterparties, right? So that is something also we are working together. So that's the space which is evolving faster, where the available data points, the governance, the due diligence on the ESG, and a platform which has all the data that requires to put it together and then bring the transparency to the FIs for them to make an informed decision.
I think, Madhi, you hit on the spot. So we didn't rehearse this earlier, just to share, okay? While he was talking about FMCG, it just struck me a case where Nestle, over the last few years, they were actually flagged up for greenwashing. There is 100 exactly, I remembered, where they were penalized. I can't remember the exact amount of how much they paid in penalties to various governments. I do remember certain cases where their subsidiaries, because the supply chain actually didn't track back, were also involved. I think Scabritt or something, the one that gives the star baby food because of their supply chain. And this is how important we need to know the clarity when we actually declare what we say, is this green? Especially if these are products, for SMCG, they have a lot of products that affect our day-to-day life, from skincare to food to cleaning equipment and all. So this is a direct impact where we as consumers, even if you're not familiar with supply chain or with sustainability, you know it impacts you. Because just one simple label, if it's an organic food, you're willing to pay a little bit more for it. If it's green and sustainable, you're willing to pay a little bit more for it. So it impacts us. But the thing is, we have to be the ones to deliver that level of trust, that when you look at the label, you can believe in it, that the supply chain is secured, the sustainability track is secured. Because if not so, it's just high-level chit-chat. And we can do that every day. But we need to be able to track, to trace, and which is why we strongly believe in ecosystem partnership, which is why I'm working with Madhi. We work with other ecosystem partners, like we have Nadia there from Smart Urban Co-Innovation Lab. Thank you for joining us today. And many others in the space, which comes together because sustainability, like what I mentioned, is something that cuts across all industry. We are not subject matter experts at every single industry. We need the help of partners who really want to make a difference, who are afraid of the systemic risks, who do not want to get caught up in greenwashing, to be involved with us, to make sure that your supply chain is clean, your sustainability is clean. We are able to work with a very fair ESG rating at the end of the day with your active data, so that we are looking at active private data rating alongside with credit rating, which is important for you because you need money to run your business.
And not only that, right? See, as the focus is more on this ESG space, the development happening in this is pretty fast. Okay, it's very, very dynamic. So we can't just go with a cookie cutter approach to handle this. So what we do is we do use generative AI capability to understand what is happening across the globe. And also we do a sentiment analysis, not only about the counterparties, but also on the ESG and financing and so on and so forth, right? And we bring all this together and then, do a scoring, okay? So then it's easier for the client, who is the buyer or the seller, and the FIs, right, the financial institutions, to make an informed decision of, how can they utilize that information to make a decision on the green or sustainable finance.
Yeah, so it's really important. This score is important because it's industry nuanced, right? And what do you actually look for? So supply chain is complex because if I'm an anchor client, I'm looking at my suppliers. They are actually not from my industry, but they supply to me in my industry. So how do I be fair to that, right? Which is why when I designed the platform, it was meant to help people in all industries. They're able to report to their particular industry, but align to what their clients want. So by reducing the administrative burden, we are able to give a very fair score because we are taking holistically what you are doing, what I'm doing, and let's find a middle path. So for that, we actually work with financial institutions. We are also working with regulators around the world to ensure that we give a fair score. So by the time I pass it across to Madhi, he knows that he's getting a decent credit score and an ESG score. It's not like another label that's been stuck up, but it's something that we have consulted around roundtables with people who makes an impact, who are drivers in this space. So it all sounds really good, right? But where does it start, right?
Yeah, it is. But see, again, it is an evolving space, and it takes time. But if you look at 2-3 years from now, I think everything is going to be driven by the ESG scoring and ESG risk rating, right? So, yeah, Dr. Niladri.
So there are various standards and frameworks that's already available globally. So the complexity is a combination of various frameworks. So pardon the jargon, which I was trying to avoid. So for example, if I look at GRI, I'm looking at economic, social governance, and then I'm looking at environment. So all key factors are taken into consideration. I could cut across by doing it as a reference, then call on a comprehensive when I do a report. So when I look at SASB, Standards Board, right? They actually divide as per industry. So per industry has got certain matrix that's crucial and critical to them, and what can you focus on. So these are the two that basically sets apart your policies and what you require in the ESG space. But if I deep dive a little bit further, what are financiers looking at? So over the last few years, we have TCFD. That is a big focus for them because it's financial disclosure. So the new one that's coming out is ISSB. So for us, is we combined all of this and pick out the crucial ones. That's why we actually have the consultation with financiers. What is important? Because I need this from you to know that if it's crucial to you. We check with regulators what they're looking at, because it's important. Country per country is different. There's geography, there's demographics to look into. So it's not so simple as coming up with just a number as a rating. It's how you come across the methodology to build that rating. It takes time. It's taken us a lot of time, and we are still going on with it because the goalpost for sustainability keeps shifting as we discover and find out more and more. So we have to be a bit forgiving in this industry, but we need to set the baseline to ensure that all those things are in place. So by doing so what I chose to do was to work along all the global frameworks, the industry requirements, which is why when you come onto my platform, what you do is the first thing is I give you a gap analysis, which means this is where you're not doing well, and so let's do something about it. But then I know that you can't do everything that you're not doing well in at the same time. So the second part is I actually tell you what is your peer benchmarking, and I prioritize what is critical, what is crucial, and I deprioritize maybe what you're doing right now that's less crucial. So that keeps you to kickstart what is going on. It's just a very basic, sensible approach. If you don't start, you'll never get there. So I always have a joke, right? I always say, if you want to lose weight, you can complain and tell that you want to lose weight. But if you're not going to weigh yourself, dude, that's never going to happen.
No, but we can take the same analogy as what Dr. Niladri said earlier, right? Which is when you launch the Google app, you have to set the destination first, right? So that applies in every context, yeah? Right. Any more questions from the audience? Yes. Maybe I'll take the second one, and then you can do the first one. So, since the second one is on the technology side, I can talk about it. We use OCR NLP technologies plus the ChatGPT generative AI to process such documents and get the key data points from there. And then keep it available, and that's where the first part comes from Lynette, where she can as part of the due diligence, it is getting consumed and validated and confirmed to to the consumer. Yes, this data point is correct, right? Maybe you can add on top of that.
Yeah, so that's what we classify under the governance part of it. So maybe just to share with you, like for ourselves, we have taken part in a competition by Financial Conduct Authority, which is like the MAS in the UK. We're working with about 15 regulators around the world right now to look into what are key importance. That's when we can decide, is this important? Should we actually take into consideration what's the evidence trail? So we actually grade differently using our set of algorithms to give different level, whether it's silver data, bronze data, or gold data. That will make a difference. If your data is not clean, we have to give you a lower mark. You're at higher risk. And then in your industry-wise, we'll actually take into consideration method of data that comes in. How does it fit into the regulators? Then we go to the second part where we actually also likewise use OCR, NLP to pick up and automate the keywords. Yeah. We've got 1 minute left. That's it. Any other questions?
Any other question? Yes.
I'll take this one. They're all meant for different purposes. So actually, if we look at it, there are 600 over certifications, which is why we're trying to clean that up at this point, which is not easy. But they're all different focus. TCFD is Task Force for Climate and Financial Disclosure. Very clear, climate and financial. GRI sits for an overall view. SASB, widely used, industry-based and nuanced. So the thing is that they have started for years. It's not easy to combine them together. They all ask different questions and different materiality. So that's the concept of double materiality that comes in. To your point about does Singapore have a certain set of questions? Yes, we do. SGX actually has its own set of reporting, like any other regulators that choose to make it mandatory for any listed companies to do so. Is it possible for SMEs to do it? Not really. Some of the questions are not possible for this SME. Some can try. The middle one can try, which is why on my platform I have both the SGX and all those frameworks so that you at least know what you are looking for next itself. But in a way, we can't synchronize everything so seamlessly because different countries has got different requirements, to be fair. Yeah.
Right. And again, depending on where they are operating, the boundary gets extended, right? So if they are going to operate within the country, only the country specific requirements is going to be applicable. Yeah.
This question, I think Theo has got a question there. And then we have to finish it off.
Catch up during the coffee break.
Okay, all right. So we'll take that out.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I hope it was useful and you have some good takeaways.
That was wonderful and awesome, Lynette and Madhi. Very informative and eye-opener for me in a lot of ways. Some of the points that you brought out. Thank you. And Niladri, can I request you to do a small token of appreciation to both our speakers? Yeah, so I know a couple of you had a questions, so you can have some knowledge-based coffee sessions in the next 1 hour. Yeah. Cheers.